Welcome to our interview series. As you know, we have been tracking how democracy is impacted by the measures to halt the spread of the coronavirus around the world. Today we are talking to two activists from Nigeria. I'm very happy to welcome Tosin Apiriola-Ajayi, who is the Executive Director, Women, Environment and Youth Development for the initiative WoyoDev, and Olaogun Sunkanmi, who is the Policy Advisor, Internationalism and Fellow at Canvas City Pan-African Youth Democracy. Welcome, and thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us.
Thank you.
Let's dive right in. So what is the situation like in Nigeria at the moment? Maybe just as a general overview for our viewers.
Well, for now, we are at the beginning of the evening of the lockdown. This began on May 4th in Nigeria. But prior to that period, there was a total lockdown. We have for about 5 weeks, whereby citizens were restricted with moving around. Well, it's been the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've seen how youth engaging can actually be positive for the populace, and how the need for government to have the right democratic dividend on the ground for its citizenry should be in place in preparation for emergencies or for the unknown. For now, people are getting to come out, but not everyone, and people are able to move from one place to the other, but not in totality, as I cited earlier. And the Nigerian system, the economic system we have in Nigeria is a situation where we have over 70% of the population in the informal sector, whereby they have to provide for their daily needs. So during the lockdown, it was not easy for a lot of people because we had a situation whereby people were clamoring or crying from home that even hunger will kill us before coronavirus gets to us. So the government put up some measures whereby they provided some palliatives. But unfortunately, Nigeria is a country whereby in the recent times we've not even done census. We don't know the population of the number of people in the country. The census we've been using are just projections from previous years. And a lot of people could not access the palliative of the government. In some quarters where the palliatives got to, we're talking of the population of about 200,000 people, and only about 50,000 households have been provided for. But with the heat, not total heat, but with the heat of the lockdown now, people are able to go about their daily business and at least provide food on their table. So for now, I think it's getting better. We have the number of cases we have in Nigeria as of today is increasing from one state to another. But we are hopeful, and we believe Nigeria and Africa as a continent we will be able to address this situation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I was wondering, how does this impact your work as civil society? How does it make it? I mean, I imagine it makes it harder, of course. But are you able to continue working? Have you had to adapt how you work?
Well, unfortunately, Nigeria falls as one of the countries in the developing nation. As civil society actor, it's not been easy working because where I'm locked down in my home, I have high restriction. I have limited access to the internet. I have to travel from my home about 50 kilometers to the place where I can access internet effectively. So it's not been easy. And like for this interview, we had to schedule and come out of our home, especially for me. Like I can't speak the same vein for Mike. I think we reside in an area where there are a little bit of access to internet. For my own area, from where I reside, we have limited access to internet. I have to travel. So there has been restriction to work. It's been advised that we take our work online, but for how many? Even the internet access we have is not is not optimal. So it's not optimal. So working has not been easy, but we've been exchanging emails. For having maybe moving the office online or having activities online has been challenging. But I believe this is an high hope now for us as a nation to have the necessary governance tools on ground to make things easy, to make living easy for our population.
Olaogun, Michael, you are a specialist in democracy and governance. Could you tell us a little bit more on how this health crisis now has it had an impact on democracy in Nigeria, good or bad?
Well, thank you very much. It's nice engaging this platform. Well, as a young activist, the point remains that we always love to move around. We always love to see things. We always love to engage government institutions and elected representatives. But ever since the pandemic started, the restriction in movement, of course, has affected one or two things in terms of reaching out to government institutions, reaching out to the populace, and in fact, even the civic protest. This part of the world, we still understand the language of protest, so that has been affected in no measure. But we are hoping that we will leverage the technology, because this is an eye opener to the new development in the world, in the global environment, that as underdeveloped country or as developing countries, we need to engage the global environment, the internet, the social media platform in the demand for social justice and accountability. So we are working assiduously on this to ensure that the young activists in the country, most especially the younger generation, are engaging these platforms in engaging the elected representatives and government institutions. Thank you.
Is there, you said now that activists have to take their work online. This is also what Tosin mentioned. Is there an opportunity for the government to take part of their democratic institutions online? Are they making an effort to make it easier for citizens to participate in democracy from a distance? Are they looking at digital tools?
Well, yeah, even the political actors. Let's take, for example, at the National Executive Council that is always been presided over by the president himself, in person of President Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, at the subnationals, I mean the governors, now they are beginning to engage the technology in having their weekly, monthly meetings. At least in Nigeria here, the National Executive Council do hold meetings every Wednesday. But ever since the pandemic started in Nigeria, they've been engaging the technology in having their meetings, their discussions, and their deliberations. So I'm hoping that the new development will bring about a new reform in the policy space, in the governance environment, because we may not be meeting. We don't know when the pandemic will end in the first place. So this is an opportunity for government institutions, elected representatives to engage technology in advancing governance and democracy in the country. So we are hoping that the government actors will work on that. And of course, the activists as well. Like a few days ago, I had a meeting with some of my friends. We are beginning to launch idea we call the policy for tech, or tech for policy. So we are hoping that the tech for policy will be an avenue for electorates to begin to engage the government in terms of pushing for policy options and other things like that. So we are working on that, and we hope it's going to revolve things in the governance environment. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I think those were about the questions I had. Is there anything else that you think is important that people should know about or that we might not have heard outside of Nigeria?
For me, I hope after my response, I'll be able to respond to you. I think COVID-19 has really been, I don't want to use the word eye opener again for because we now know the reason why we should engage. It is not enough to be a citizen of a particular country. You should know what the government is about. You should know what is going on. People now listen to news as if they want to eat. So it's not more about I need to fill my stomach. It's about getting to know what is going on in my environment. It's about engaging. People are now able to, ask questions. Okay, if we have a particular national budget, what is the impact for health? What is the impact for education? So people are now asking questions, and people are now increasingly demanding for adequate governance, not just sit and look. Because sit and look has been the hallmark in the past, but things have changed. And post-COVID, totally, I'm really hoping um, right institutions will be on ground and well-funded. Nigeria as a country is very swift in signing international treaties of convention, but domestication has been an issue. So we'll see how we have an agency that is started with the responsibility of taking into account or of addressing infectious disease control. How are we funding the institution? Are we not diverting the funds meant for the institution into other things? So these people are beginning to get eager to know what is going on in their society. And I think it's a good one for us.
Yeah, citizens are certainly paying more attention to what is happening, and there's an opportunity to hold governments accountable when more people are looking at what's going on. Olaogun, Michael, is there anything you would like to mention?
Well, yeah, thank you very much. The pandemic is not, of course, what is obtainable in Nigeria alone. It's a global occurrence, and of course, it's awakening the minds of leaders across the world into present realities, things they have been doing well and things they've not been doing well. In Nigeria, here we have a very weak earth infrastructures, and the present reality is pushing both the leaders and the led in doing things rightly within the ed sector. Let's take, for example, the political office holders are good at going for ed tourism abroad. But now everybody, we are all locked down in the country. Nobody can travel out because the airspaces are shut down. So every one of us now, we are being affected by one way or the other. But importantly, the elites are affected the most because they are the ones who have their children abroad, schooling abroad, traveling abroad, having businesses abroad, and a whole lot more like that. But the point remains that our consciousness is now being awakened, just as Tosin said, that, okay, everybody is now interested in the demand for accountability. So the earth is a basic need of all citizens, and it is the constitutional responsibility of government to ensure that all these basic amenities are provided. So I am interested in asking what my constituency or the constituency allowance for budget in my state, the monthly, the annual budgetary allocation for earth funding, and people are now beginning to demand for increased funding in the earth sector because our health infrastructures are in dilapidated state. So all of us need to continue to engage the government. Now the reality is turning on us. We are beginning to engage fire brigade approach in fixing the health sector, which ordinarily is not meant to be. But we hope the present occurrence we put the political office holders on their toes in doing better and better as we hope the pandemic we face off as quick as possible. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I certainly hope so as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. And I hope you stay safe and healthy, and you can continue your very important work. Thank you.